I wish I could show you the banner that's hanging in my tattoo room. It says, "No psychotherapy, just heavy shading."
So, is that because you had that experience?
No, it's because it's not what I want to endeavor. Yeah, of course, it happens to a degree. We have to have, there is some kind of personal relationship that I form, especially with returning clients or long-term clients, or even larger, just, a singular large piece, I may never see them again. But it's multiple sessions, and you're doing this, weird fucking, I don't know, I was going to say pain and pleasure kind of thing, but for some people it is kind of weird pain and pleasure kind of principle intermix, but mostly it's just pain.
Yeah.
And that will bring out, conversations, ideas, thoughts, just, musings or whatever.
Yeah, it's anything unique. It is outside of the BDSM world. And maybe it's more unique than that because it's like,
they're not practicing art in a way. I mean, they may do that, right? But
I guess the sort of shedding of inhibition and need to talk and express and divulge to you is maybe not what they were expecting to happen, but because they're experiencing so much pain in a very intimate setting, that's what happens.
I think that's definitely part of it. Yeah.
That is so fascinating to me. I mean, so maybe you're on the side of the spectrum that are trying to maybe tap the brakes on that a little bit. Do you know other artists who dig in, go?
They go the other way. They open themselves up to it, and then it's then they just, it's carte blanche. They just walked all over with the discussion. But I think also my work, what it looks like, and kind of my personality, it's not out there for people to get a taste to kind of play in, I guess, to a degree. There's people that want to have these kind of conversations or probably go, that he's not the guy for it.
Yeah.
So I already kind of have a nice little, a dummy wall up for a lot of it.
That's interesting because I think you're and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the world of tattooing, there's superstars, and then there's a more what it used to be, which is sort of the guy with a tattoo gun, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
More crap.
I guess you said that somehow personal branding and tattooing has overlapped in the past 20 years, whereas in the past it wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a potential patron has much more ability to assess not only technical aptitude but also personality. Like you're saying, you're not the guy to steal my heart too.
Right. And there's also a weird aspect of tattooing that turns into, like you said, personal brand recognition.
Right.
There's that really weird aspect of I want to get a an RE tattoo. I got an RE tattoo, or I have Philip Blue tattoo.
But I think that's a good thing. That it's just more.
I think for most people it is. I think because they love the work. But some people want it as a main brand thing. They want to have that a collection. That is of a certain.
That's still interesting.
It's almost like if you're somebody rich and you have an idea of what you like in art, but you work with a certain gallerist and they're like, I got to turn you on this great stuff, and they're like, cool, this is what I like them too, because they also have a big name,
right?
So you're like, I like them and I like them and I like them, and maybe they can't go down to a random person's take on it and be like, I like that too. It just has some thing, some joy de vivre that it expresses to me, even though no one's ever heard of this person, and no one cares, but I like the work, and fuck it, you know,
Right.
I'll collect some of that on my skin. Tattooing is part of the art.
It is. So I don't know if you knew this, but I once rented a studio at a tattoo shop, and that's like
How to explain that a little more?
I was just like, trying to find a place to paint, and my friends Matt Hayes and Matt Hayes, both Matt Hayes, both tattooers, have this tattoo shop. Shout out Matt Hayes. And they had a space in the back, and basically I had the opportunity to rent it to paint. Right. It's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
Friends had space for work, but what I hadn't anticipated was like, for the first few months, I was just like, have my headphones on, walled off, not interested in like knowing what's going on. And then I started to take the headphones off and kind of like eavesdrop on these conversations, right? This sort of like the way that, they are both very different in this particular, the way they receive that confession, right?
Right.
And I just found that so fascinating, and it really bled into my painting, like this idea of knowing a person by like seeing their old tattoos and new tattoos, of how that can be in some ways, in some cases, it can represent change, right? It can represent psychic change in a human being. I just like, that's rich stuff. And being able to hear those conversations of like, a lot of times they would be justifying the super bad Denver Broncos tattoo on their ankle, right? And like, well, this is just where I was. I think the really heavy stuff too, like about loss, and it was just like I don't know anywhere else in any profession where that kind of vulnerability and transparency is met with non-clinical professionalism.
But there are people who are completely untrained. Oh yeah.
To receive like those kinds of confessions.
And then also people that are confessing, a lot of them would never even be that open to a professional.
Right, absolutely.
Which is also really interesting.
You're absolutely right about that.
They wouldn't share some of that stuff because it'd be like, nah, it doesn't matter, or I'm not mad, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I was just like, it gave me a whole new level of respect for the tattoo artist, because that's part of this job. It's like, maybe if like you're saying, if you're really explicit in sort of writing that out, like, or, over time, you just sort of try to minimize that part of it. It's still there, right? Like, it's just
because a lot of the conversations do get a little heavier, a little more, I don't know. I don't want to say explicit, not like that, but they just, we're transparent.
It takes a lot of effort and consciousness to kind of dress up what you want to say. And if you're in pain like that, like, it's incredible. So anyway, that period of my life had a big impact. I think that's really when the first tattoos started to appear in my paintings. So that was like 2011.
So that informed you then, that helped inform you how to make the tattoo look correct on your paintings, by seeing a lot of stuff in your skin.
Yeah.
And you paid attention, and then you were studying a little bit.
Totally. Okay, totally. I mean, being kind of like, I had to be very like, kind of peeking here and there, because they wouldn't, these people getting tattoos, like, I felt really like, clearly my presence was not wanted.
We're
at a very intimate space, right? So I picked up a few things here and there. But I never thought that would have the impact that it did. Again, like from that point, it's been like tattoo everything, because I just feel like it adds this such amazing extra layer on top of the form. And like we were talking about earlier, there's really no other way to justify that kind of line work and texture in the context of realism outside tattooing. Like, it gives this whole extra expanded life cycle to the painting. I mean, at some point I'll have to like let it go, but I won't pick up anywhere here back. Yeah.
Good, because I would get on other tattoos.
Yeah. Well, then that sort of is like I don't know if you would call that tattooing, right? Like, it's more of just another image.
To be, so it'll look like flesh yet.
This too, where it's like, it's essentially tattooing, but it's superimposition of texture, superimposition of graphic on top of form. So it could all be interpreted as tattoo, but maybe so some of it's very literally tattooing, some of it's tattoo related, but having that something extra just under the skin is really endlessly appealing. And just can't get enough there.
It's awesome that you, I don't know, it's really cool that you have thought about it so much and enjoy it so much, you know.
Yeah.
It's interesting coming from, you know, being a lifelong tattooer and then, you know, being somebody that's an artist without tattoos, without practicing, without being, I mean, you're exposed to tattooing through your studio space there, but aside from that, it sounded like you were really exposed to it.
I remember my sister had a lot of tattoos when she was young. My family stuff, there's tattoos of the family for sure. Monotype, so it was around, you know.
But it's so interesting to hear your take on what you feel is powerful about tattooing and your attraction to it and what that means. It's refreshing because it comes from a different space.
Yeah.
And I like it because it makes me, I don't know, it makes me proud to be a tattooer in a way too, because because you're expressing how much power you think tattooing has. It's in its own way, right? I'm not talking about all aspects of it, but just some of it. It's neat to hear it from an outside voice.
And the way that you're tattooing is it's less. I mean, I guess I like both worlds. I like the old school tattooing where it was like you could get kind of the same thing tattooed by any number of tattoo artists, maybe in the right way. But it was like I'm such an outsider, so I didn't sound like an idiot talking about it like this, but it seemed like there was like one book in the beginning that was kind of passed around and shared.
There's just codified images, the coditional, right? And we're copying by some people.
But what I'm seeing now, like in your case, is like it's more interesting work around aesthetics and the way that line and color moves over form. Like, and when you're talking about the shortcomings of photography, that makes a lot of sense to me because it's such a visually appealing thing that I lack the language for. But the way that certain lines will move over a form, I like that. Like,
right.
Like so deeply. So I can only imagine, like, and again, it's refreshing to see where tattooing can go in that regard. That's like not so like, okay, you got like, you know how have you ever seen a pig in a butcher shop? How it's like, shows the cuts of meat. You got those like dotted lines. It's like the body used to be thought about like that for tattooing, where you get this real estate spot, you got this real estate spot, this one, and then maybe 1, 2, 3. Where now what I've seen is like things that are just sort of moving over and across in weird ways, you know, even like jumping over gaps in physiology. That stuff's really interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to expand upon the idea of the moving over topography is that tattooing, more modern tattooing, really takes on the idea of anatomy in that it moves with the musculature and with the natural flow and movement of the body, just like wear a massive pin on the body, that kind of thing, right? And follow that in a way that makes that accentuates the dynamicism of our physiology,
or the opposite, right? Like so this is an interesting maybe segue in. So there's that, which is like it seems much more celebratory, harmonious,
right?
And then there's this other thing, which is like, you know, ignorant style tattooing. I don't know if you follow that world closely, but it's like stuff that's like going against the grain of something looking good.
It's a rebellion. Yeah, I get it. It's a rebellion. It's like punk rock tattooing.
Yeah, right.
But even though I think it's dead, like there can be no punk rock tattooing almost because everybody's got a fucking tat. They're everywhere. Yeah. Every dickhead tattoos.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have that. But it's a rebellion against like, it's too refined, it's too good, it's too nice, who gives a shit?
Right.
And it's cool. I like that idea.
I mean, interesting stuff.
Yeah.
That sort of, unfortunately at times is like, tries to signal that you don't care, but it's signaling that you don't care because you care, right? That you're signaling.
Right. It's bizarre. It's bizarre for sure. And I think that, I mean, whatever. Without trying to sound too judgmental, I think that stuff's going to age real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quicker than the old normal tat, which can also age pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely... Yeah, that's interesting. There's definitely a point in your life where you're like, you want people to know that you don't care much about anything. Like, for whatever reason, that seems to be a very kind of adolescent thing.
Yeah.
But then you commit so hard to it, those kinds of tattoos, that's the next conversation that I'm interested in, is like, so that's always going to be there. What's the next thing you do? Like, that's kind of where I'm at in painting, is like telling that story. Like, how do you reconcile those two decisions represented in an older tattoo and a new tattoo? So like when, kids these days that get the ignorant style tattoo when they're 18 or 23, what that's going to look like aged, and how, like, what kind of psychic transformation will occur,
right?
Which always does as you become an adult. That new tattoo represents that, and then you have that juxtaposition, which I think is really beautiful. Or the opposite can be true, right?
Or you don't have enough room for new tattoos, because a lot of people just get lasted, and then they have this marcation of that pretty narrow era.
Yeah.
And then how do they reconcile having the tattoos that, everyone has a tattoo if you have a tattoo when you're young, you had a tattoo you got when you're young, and it is what it is. And you could have got multiple ones or whatever, but there's a weird thing where, when you get older, you go like, well, fuck it. Fuck it. I don't like this tattoo or whatever, fuck it, because it's permanent.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort to get rid of a tattoo and to cover a tattoo sometimes.
So what their option is this thing I'm really interested in right now called blast over.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm actually curating a show in Paris next month called Blast Over.
Really?
Yeah. That's like, it has some connection directly to that phrase in the context of tattooing, but is more about this really harsh layering effect that, I've got, of course, painters involved, ceramicists, musicians, a musician in the case of Ishmael Butler, but that's focusing on that particular aesthetic. That's like, it's not a cover-up, like where you would try to conceal it.
Right.
It's not like an extra tattoo that really honors the old form and image. It's like, boom, just right on top, and you can still see the old thing. I'm obsessed with that phenomenon, and thought that would be an interesting thing to try to expand the landscape of a blast over.
Right.
I wish I had old tattoos so I can do a blast over.
Finally,
Yeah, so I'm fucked. I got nothing old. So now I wouldn't be able to have a blast over for...
My double chest is the last five. That's like kind of the cover up of this.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, that's kind of the stuff that I'm like really interested in, is that chaos.
That's how for to use the tats.
No. I'm very self-conscious about my lack of tattoo right now.
Can you tell us about the difference between working, the freedoms that it gives you between the oil and the monotypes you're doing, and maybe why you enjoy a lot of types?
I think the monotype making process filled this hole in my studio process left by abandoning drawing. For whatever reason, I just stopped drawing a long, long time ago. I think it's just like the difference between the fluidity of an active paint film and then the approach of drawing, which is creating an image through composition of line. I just lost my connection to that. So monotypes are essentially, they fill that gap in an interesting way. And then I can make something that doesn't take, 3 months to make. The monotypes are also in a fluid medium. It's oil-based, so everything is active all at once. It's not like you kind of have a window to finish it, and it's usually 3 days or something like that. Yeah, so it's like it gives me an opportunity to make something quickly and kind of not as finished as the oil paintings tend to be. It's harder to, it's a much more difficult medium to control than oil paint, and a lot is left to chance. You never really know what you're going to get when you print it. And it's also, equally as original of a piece of art as opposed to like, making an edition of something that I just can't really wrap my head around that right now. So, yeah.
This, when you discussed, you said that, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. Do you find it freeing?
Yeah.
It seemed like that would be a really great aspect of them where you don't have to, put the same mind stroke on yourself or something. You're kind of like, well, I'm going to do my best and then we're going to see what happens and whether it hits or doesn't hit. Or
I think that was true. That was true in the beginning. But, where I didn't have as much control. But now that I've done it for a while, like I'm asserting that level of control. I kind of know what I'm going to get. I mean, there's always a chance it doesn't turn out. So there's just less control. I have less control, but I guess it's come to the point. I mean, I think that's probably true with any new medium. So maybe I didn't pick up a new medium because I think that's like, that inability to control every little detail is actually really exciting.
right.
So, I mean, I think that there's a lot of potential in monotype as a medium. It's also really hard for people to understand when it is. So there's always this conversation about, like what the fuck is a monotype? It just sounds like something really technical that's not. It's a painting. It's just a painting pressed onto a piece of paper. That's all it is. But that's a continual problem. It's like explaining what a monotype is, and especially to potential buyers. It's, people will use the term monoprint and monotype interchangeably, which drives me nuts. It's a little petty thing, but it is. It's like one is worth more than another. Like it's monotype is ultimately unique. Monoprint is less unique, and then you get down the line to it, editioning.
Right.
So anyway, it's like I don't know if that's the hill I want to die on. Educating the public about monotype. Yeah, it's just a weird medium. Like it's been around for 300 years or 350 years, but you don't see it too often. There's just a couple great people making monotypes, but it's pretty rare.
Cool.